Hi, everybody, and welcome to Lovefraud Live. I'm Donna Andersen, author of Lovefraud.com. Ending a relationship with a sociopath is not a normal breakup. Therefore, when you call it quits with a sociopath, you can't get together with this person, hug, cry, wish each other well, as you might do when splitting up with someone who is not disordered. Tonight I'm going to teach you 10 critical mistakes to avoid when breaking up with a sociopath, so you can escape his or her web safely and permanently. This is a live streaming show, and I'll answer your questions at the end of my short presentation. So please go ahead and send your questions to me by chat as we go along. Okay, so let's get started. If you're watching this video, you've probably been romantically involved with a sociopath, whether male, female, or other. You know all about how seductive they are. They can be charming, exciting, sexy, at least while they're trying to reel you in. But sooner or later, and one way or another, you start to catch on that things are not right in your relationship. Let me define whom I'm talking about. By sociopaths, I mean people who could be diagnosed with antisocial, narcissistic, borderline, histrionic, or psychopathic personality disorders. These people do not pursue romantic relationships to find mutual love and companionship. They are looking for someone to use, perhaps for money, sex, housing, connections, fill an empty spot in their soul, or just to siphon off your emotional energy. At some point, the sociopath may simply get bored and abandon you. This is quite a shock, because all along, they've been telling you how wonderful you are, how fantastic, how perfect. And then suddenly, they have no use for you. In the survivor community, this is known as the devalue and discard. Although you feel devastated if this happens to you and the person disappears, consider yourself lucky. Good riddance. But sometimes you come to the realization that the relationship is no good for you, and you need to figure out how to get rid of the sociopath. If that's the case, here are 10 mistakes to avoid. Mistake number 1, thinking that you can still be friends. You may still be cordial, perhaps even close, with some of your other past romantic partners. This doesn't work with sociopaths. If you have any contact at all, the sociopath will attempt to reel you back in and exploit you again. You need to get this person out of your life, completely and permanently. Mistake number 2, getting together in person to break up. Yes, the polite way to end a relationship is for everybody to have closure. But sociopaths don't care about closure. They care about maintaining control over you. You know how manipulative they are. If you meet them in person, they may plead and promise and cajole and sink their hooks into you again. So when you're leaving a sociopath, breaking up by text, or even ghosting them is totally acceptable. Don't seek closure from the partner. Give it to yourself. Mistake number 3, believing that the sociopath can or will change. Remember, sociopaths are fundamentally different from the rest of us. Once they are adults, no therapy or rehabilitation will cure their disorder. Therefore, don't fall for the promises that they'll never do it again, they'll get therapy, they'll go to church, whatever. No matter what they say, they cannot permanently change. You need to accept that fact and act accordingly. Mistake number 4, feeling responsible for the sociopath's behavior. Now, after they abuse you, sociopaths may have said, I did that because you made me do it, or I did it because you pushed my buttons. Fill in the blank with whatever your supposed offense was. Don't believe it. Sociopaths are blamers. It's part of the disorder. You are not responsible for the sociopath's actions. Mistake number 5. Staying to prevent the sociopath from committing suicide. Many sociopaths use threats of suicide as a control mechanism. If the sociopath you're breaking up with threatens suicide, he or she is either serious or they're trying to make you feel guilty so that you don't leave. Either way, the best thing you can do is call 911. If the person is serious, let the professionals deal with it. If the person is not serious, you will have called his or her bluff, and hopefully they won't do it again. Mistake number 6. Failing to protect your physical safety. Unfortunately, some sociopaths are vindictive and violent. When someone is physically abusive, the most dangerous time for you is when you are leaving the relationship. The sociopath may fly into a rage and do the unthinkable. If you have ever seen a sociopath engage in violence, whether towards people, animals, or property, like punching a hole in the wall, take precautions. Mistake number 7, failing to lock down your finances. When sociopaths have access to your financial records or accounts, they may steal your money, run up your credit cards, or steal your identity and open accounts in your name. So the first thing you should do when you leave a sociopath is run a credit check on yourself. You may be shocked to discover that there is debt and credit cards in your name that you knew nothing about. Mistake number 8, failing to lock down your electronics. If sociopaths have had access to your cell phone, computers, and other devices, they might have installed spyware to monitor your communications or keyloggers to steal your passwords. These can be very difficult to detect and eradicate. You may need to get all new devices, new cell phones, new computers. Mistake number 9, failing to understand the smear campaign. Long before you knew there were any problems in your relationship, the sociopath may have started undermining you. He or she may have started to lie about you to your friends, family, even your employers. They may accuse you of doing drugs or cheating or being mentally ill. That's a big one that they like to use. The objective is to ruin your support network so that when you seek help and validation, nobody believes you. Finally, mistake number 10, underestimating the sociopathic desire for revenge. Many sociopaths view romantic rejection as what's called a narcissistic injury, a totally unacceptable affront to their egos. They may decide that the person who caused the injury, that would be you, must be punished. If you think this may happen, you need to plan your exit with extreme caution. Okay, those are the 10 most important mistakes to avoid. So I'm almost finished with the presentation. If you have any questions for me, please go ahead and send them along now. I see we have some comments. So also, if you're watching this video after the live stream, ask your question in the Lovefraud Forum where the video is posted. There's a link in the description right below this video window. So if you are thinking about or in the process of ending an involvement with a sociopath, I hope that you are now determined to avoid these mistakes. What then should you do? How should you end the relationship with a sociopath? Here are 2 possible approaches. The first one is that you tell the person one time, I repeat, one time, that it's over. You want to make sure they're gone. You are not trying to be nice. Therefore, telling him or her by text is acceptable. Here's some language that you can use. I have no romantic interest in you whatsoever. I know I never will. Please do not contact me ever again. Brutal. Yeah, I know, it's brutal. But you want this person to get the message. It's over. Perhaps, however, you're worried that the direct approach will incite him or her to pursue you aggressively, maybe even stalk you. If that's the case, you may want to try a different approach and become boring. Have no interest in doing anything, have nothing to say, or if you do talk, make it about stupid stuff that your partner will find annoying. Your objective is to convince the partner to dump you. Then, from the moment he or she is gone, you have no contact with the sociopath ever again. You do not talk to them, text, or email. You certainly don't meet them in person. And you don't even go to their Facebook page. Get free of your disordered partner and stay free. So this information that I just offered you, 10 mistakes to avoid leaving when you're leaving a sociopath, is included in my newest book in the Lovefraud blog series. Here it is. It's called Dealing with a Sociopath, How to Survive the Antisocials, Narcissists, and Psychopaths in Your Life. This is the third book in the Lovefraud blog series, and it includes a collection of Lovefraud articles with suggestions on what to actually do about sociopaths, ranging from tips for child custody battles to how to possibly expose the predator and what you need to keep in mind. The book is now available on lovefraud.com and Amazon, and there's a link in the description below. So that's the presentation for tonight's episode of Lovefraud Live. This is the YouTube show where you learn to spot sociopaths and get them out of your life, and then recover from the damage that they cause. So I'm going to take a look at our questions here and see what we have. Okay. CCB said, are they manipulative from day one, or does their agenda begin later in the relationship? Sociopaths are always manipulative. There is always an ulterior motive to whatever they're doing. Manipulation is part of the disorder. It's part of the way they live. So even if you don't see it in the beginning, because remember, what you'll see is they'll be charming, they'll be helpful. Those are the times when they'll show up when they say they're going to show up and not disappear on you. It all has a motive, and the motive is to hook you. So sociopaths are on their best behavior in the beginning of relationship, but that's because they're trying to seduce you. And so therefore they're being manipulative. Remember that a sociopath is not looking for someone to be a companion. They're looking for someone that they can take advantage of. So the whole premise of the relationship is manipulation. They're trying to get something from you. So yes, they are definitely manipulative right from the beginning. And so we have another question here. They cannot change or will not change. It's actually both. Personality disorders become ingrown parts of their identities. I have some other videos on this. You may want to take a look at them as far as explaining, how they think. But it's who they are. I mean, a personality disorder is not like a mental disorder like anxiety or depression, because if you have anxiety or depression, you probably remember what it was like before you had the illnesses, that when you felt okay, and you want to feel that way again. Well, a personality disorder is always there. There wasn't a time, at least probably from maybe the age of 12 or 13 or 14, there wasn't a time where they were healthy, normal people. This is who they are. So they cannot change. Once they are an adult, it's just not going to happen. But also, Many sociopaths are very happy with how they are. I mean, I talked about this last week in the video of do psychopaths know what they are? Quite a few people who have antisocial, narcissistic, psychopathic personality disorder, they're pretty content. They think there's nothing wrong with them. In fact, they feel superior. Now, people with borderline personality disorder, that's different. The people who have borderline personality disorder, I really feel sorry for them because they do experience anxiety and they're unhappy with their situation. But the other disorders, usually they are pretty self-satisfied. So it's both. They can't change and they won't change. All right, let's see what else we have. Mary says they sound like spoiled brats that never grew up. Yep, I'd agree with that. Okay, Karen says she used to date one of these and haven't heard from him from a while. Is he gone or will he show up? There's no one answer to that question. If he hasn't shown up, that's really good. Some of them do. Some of them disappear, fall off the face of the earth, and you never hear from them again. Others come back. Often the thinking is, from their point of view, that if they were able to take advantage of you at one point, they'll be able to do it again. And sometimes years can go by. Somebody may be gone for 4, 5, 6 years and all of a sudden show up again. So the key here is to make sure that you're clear and that you want nothing more to do with this person. You don't want to be involved with this person. And if your former partner shows up, just be ready to shut it down immediately. Hang up the phone, slam the door in their face, whatever. You want nothing to do with this person. So yeah, it's up to you. I mean, you're the one who has to make the decision that it's over, and you're the one who has to enforce that decision. Okay, what else do we have? Christine says that borderlines can get better, and there is some research that says that's the case, that there is some recovery period for borderlines. Like I said, that the borderline disorder is kind of different from the other ones, and that's one of the things. Now, unfortunately, sometimes people are diagnosed as borderline when they actually are antisocial or narcissistic. Part of the reason for that is that most of the people who are diagnosed as borderline are a female, and a lot of therapists just don't want to say that a female is antisocial. So then what happens is that they have this diagnosis of borderline, and their friends and family think that they can possibly get better when they can't, because they're not actually borderline. I do feel badly for people with borderline personality disorder, because for a lot of them, the reason they have the disorder is that the women or the girls were sexually abused when they were young, and the boys were shamed often when they were young. So it's truly sad, and those are the ones who do experience discomfort and anxiety because of their disorders, unlike antisocials and psychopaths who could care less. But I do hope that there will be more treatment for these disorders, perhaps sometime in the future. Right now, the best possibility for treatment is when the folks are young. There does seem to be some opportunity to help them when they're young, but by the time they're full-grown adults, it's pretty difficult. So, okay, that seems to be all the questions that we have. Thank you again for joining us on Lovefraud Live. We'll see you in 2 weeks. I have a conflict next week, so there's no show, but I'll be posting information about the next program. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.